I was nursing a half-empty glass of reconstituted starfruit liquor when I first realized everything had changed. Just a few months earlier, I'd been stationed on a peaceful diplomatic outpost at the edge of the Thrax Nebula, an area known for its trading posts and placid cosmic storms that rippled through space like living auroras. I was a liaison officer, Darien Thrax, tasked with monitoring Valoran activities on behalf of the Nisari, or so I believed. In reality, the Galactic Council had quietly inserted me into that post to keep an eye on a curious new development: the budding friendship between the Valoran people and a race of bipedal mammals calling themselves humans. Even at the time, I found it strange that the Council cared so intently about such an insignificant planet known as Earth. But if there was one unspoken lesson I'd learned from my superiors, it was this: the Council does not dispatch observers unless they sense a threat. Looking back, it's almost comical that we considered humanity a possible danger solely because of their relentless curiosity. It would soon become obvious that threat was an understatement. When the assignment order first landed on my desk, I expected something trivial, observing some dusty colony or writing perfunctory reports about local crop yields. Instead, I was sent to the Valoran border to watch for what the Council called aberrations in standard interspecies protocols. I had almost no idea what that meant, but I soon learned the Council was panicking over the Valorans' unauthorized contact with Earth. The Valoran, from their floating crystalline cities, were known throughout the galaxy for their spiritual culture and near-miraculous healing technologies. They had joined the Council centuries ago, and in that time they'd gently supplied knowledge of environmental science, medical breakthroughs, and even advanced energy grids. Yet the Council had grown uneasy with how freely the Valoran shared ideas. In Council doctrine, less developed species were to be observed from a distance, allowed to advance at their own pace unless the Council decided otherwise. Of course, we all suspected the real reason was that the Council, after 3,000 years of uncontested rule, did not want to see a new competitor rise in technology too fast. If the Valoran were giving humanity access to their crystalline wonders, that might tip the scales in ways the Council could not control. At first, the humans hardly seemed dangerous. Their homeworld, Earth, was described as a watery rock with small continents and unpredictable weather patterns. By Council standards, they were primitive, only having discovered faster-than-light travel a few decades ago. However, I quickly noticed that every intelligence report from Earth described them as remarkably adaptable. The Valoran had apparently been fascinated by human broadcasts, television signals, and digital archives that traveled into space, painting a vivid picture of a species prone to conflict, yet also endlessly inventive. The Valoran found their stories mesmerizing, their resilience admirable. Officially, the Council called them underdeveloped, but behind closed doors there was a growing sense of alarm. For me, posted at that modest outpost, I merely watched as humans and Valoran began exchanging knowledge in secret. It started with minor trades, simple medical research, small shipments of Valoran healing crystals, hints of new energy matrices on Earth. But it grew into something more, a genuine bond. Over nightly dinners, my Valoran colleagues spoke with wonder about the humans' determination and creative spark, traits they claimed the Valoran had lost after centuries of peace. I, on the other hand, was more skeptical. The Nisari were proud warriors, our entire culture built around discipline and service. For thousands of years, we'd been the Galactic Council's fist. We enforced its laws, collected its taxes, and crushed any nascent rebellion. I'd done my fair share of it, though not as a frontline soldier. I was an officer, a strategist, working behind the scenes. My loyalty, at least back then, was to the Council, yet something about the Valoran-human relationship intrigued me. Humans were so new to the galactic scene, but they showed no hesitation in diving headlong into collaboration. They wanted to learn, experiment, improve. They asked the Valoran for help with advanced medicine, and in exchange they taught the Valoran new engineering principles, new ways to think about energy distribution. It was as if each species completed the other. One night, While reviewing a datapad of Earth-Valoran joint projects, I remember thinking, this kind of alliance is exactly what the Council fears. The Council thrives on controlling the flow of knowledge. If these two peoples keep advancing together, they'll destabilize the entire system. My superiors demanded detailed reports. I sent them everything: notes on the blossoming cultural exchange, the rumors of Earth's small but growing space navy, the hush-hush experimentation with integrating Valoran crystal tech into Earth's industrial base. They responded with short, cryptic messages: situation noted, continue observation, do not interfere. But it was obvious that something bigger was brewing behind the scenes. Sometimes I caught glimpses of top-level Council communiques referencing a protocol designated as Emergency 17, though I had no idea what it entailed. And so I watched, wrote my logs, and grew increasingly uneasy about the friction coiling itself around our corner of the galaxy. The final straw came when an official Council edict arrived at every major Valoran world, scolding them for unacceptable acceleration of a pre-FTL species. It declared that the Valoran must terminate all technology transfers to Earth immediately. The Valoran councilors pushed back. They refused to break their relationship with humans, insisting that Earth had reached FTL status independently and therefore was not truly primitive. I recall how my Valoran colleagues at the outpost were not even worried. We have centuries of cooperation with the Council, they said. They won't truly harm us, they just need reassurance. But I knew better. The Nazari had been the Council's enforcers for too long. Threatening letters rarely remained words. That was the moment I realized confrontation was inevitable, and I had a sinking feeling that everything we knew, especially the fragile sense of peace, was about to be obliterated. I just had no idea how fast and how brutal it would be. I woke the next day to a priority alert from my console. The Council had launched a coordinated strike on the Valoran homeworld and several major colonies. The timing was deliberate, chosen just before local dawn to catch Valoran security forces by surprise. Over the secure comm channels, I heard screams, frantic requests for help, and the distinct hum of quantum disruptor cannons. I froze in horror. The broadcast from Valora Prime flickered on the screen, showing crystalline spires collapsing in clouds of luminous dust, entire districts disintegrating under the disruptor's unstoppable beam. The operation was codenamed Containment, but that was a lie. It was genocide. 3 billion Valoran wiped out in a matter of hours. I could do nothing but stare, transfixed by the atrocity unfolding. My Nasari training had taught me to accept that some tasks are unsavory but necessary, yet seeing the Council's flagship flanked by a dozen Nasari warships systematically obliterating a peaceful city, that went far beyond anything I could reconcile. In the days that followed, the Council repeated these attacks on every Valoran world that refused to sever ties with Earth. The numbers of the dead became staggering. Billions in the span of a week. Some species in the Council objected, but they were overruled, or worse, coerced into silence. Within me something shattered. My sense of loyalty to the Council, my entire world view, collapsed in the face of unprovoked slaughter. I was forced to flee the outpost along with a few sympathetic Nazari who were horrified at the brutality. We escaped in a small corvette, our only plan to warn the Valorans' new allies, the humans. We had no illusions. The Council believed that if they destroyed the Valorans swiftly enough, Earth would capitulate, too frightened to fight. All we could do was pray that humanity's rumored defenses were more than just rumors, and if not, if Earth fell, then perhaps there would be no place left in the galaxy untainted by the Council's iron grip. When we reached the outskirts of the Sol system, we encountered something beyond our wildest predictions. An entire network of hidden shipyards, orbital platforms, weaponized asteroid bases, all bearing the insignia of Earth's newly unified government. The humans called it the Earth Defense Force, and they had mobilized at a speed no one believed possible. Although Earth had been granted only a fraction of Valoran tech, they had improved it at breakneck pace, engineering quantum jump drives for every vessel, from supply haulers to fighter craft. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but the more I saw, the more I realized the Council's cardinal sin of underestimation was about to cost them dearly. Perhaps that was exactly how the Valoran had inspired them. They had shown Earth the wonders of advanced science and offered them deeper empathy for life. In return, humanity showed the Valoran how to wage war with relentless determination. News of the Valoran massacres reached Earth in seconds via entangled quantum communicators that no one knew the Valoran possessed. There was no diplomatic overture, no attempt at negotiation. Earth simply declared war on the Galactic Council. And, as I would soon learn, they had been preparing for this moment from the very first day Valoran ships hovered above New Zealand, forging an alliance that would reshape the galaxy forever. I remember standing on the command deck of a newly christened Earth cruiser, designated the Aegis, feeling the rumble of its engines as we accelerated away from the Sol system. My mind swirled with 1,000 questions. Had humanity truly built this many warships in secret? Were they capable of standing against the Council's combined armada? I was about to find out. My corvette had been granted temporary clearance to travel alongside a forward strike group, all of us en route to a Valoran colony known as New Horizon. The colony was under siege by Council forces, but Earth was determined not to let the Valoran stand alone. When we arrived at New Horizon, the first sight that greeted us was a ring of Council dreadnoughts bombarding the planet's atmosphere with overhead blasts. Flames and shattered crystal spires dotted the surface below. My heart sank, sure we were too late. Then the humans opened fire. It was an awe-inspiring display. Beams of concentrated energy, enhanced by Valoran crystal arrays, cut through the Council dreadnoughts as if their armor were made of paper. Earth's fleet had no interest in negotiations. In a matter of minutes, they disabled the Council's line ships, targeted propulsion systems, and boarded them with swarms of small drones. The Council's standard battle protocols designed to maximize shock and casualties were useless against drone swarms that aimed only to capture the vessels intact. When the dust settled, over a dozen Council warships had been taken, with minimal loss of life on both sides. That was humanity's message. They wanted to save the Valoran, not exterminate every living soul in the Council. I watched from my corvette's bridge, speechless. The stories about Earth's adaptability were no exaggeration. Even their boarding tactics had a distinct fluidity. Each human vessel operated with partial independence, an approach they called distributed command. Instead of waiting for top-down orders, every captain made decisions in real time, sharing data through a unified network. It made them unpredictable. Soon the Council dreadnoughts were limping in orbit, forcibly powered down, while Earth's rescue shuttles descended to the battered colony below, evacuating Valoran survivors. My Nazari instincts warred with the gratitude I felt toward the humans. On the one hand, I had served the Council. On the other, I was relieved to see at least one group, one moral force caring enough to intervene. In the aftermath, I encountered Admiral Elena Reyes, the woman who was rapidly becoming the face of Earth's war effort. She was a tall figure with alert eyes, clad in the crisp uniform of the Earth Defense Force. When she spoke, it was with a measured calm that veiled immense resolve. "We will not stand by," she told the Council prisoners over an open channel. "Every Valoran life you take will be answered with the dismantling of your empire piece by piece. If you want war, you have chosen the wrong species to provoke." I almost admired her for that conviction. The Council had believed that their centuries of experience and massive fleets would cow Earth into submission. They were in for a rude awakening, but that was only the beginning. Over the ensuing weeks, the war escalated across multiple star systems. Council forces converged in large, slow-moving battle groups, their standard approach to any large-scale threat. But the humans refused to fight by the Council's rules. Time and again, Earth's fleets would jump unpredictably behind enemy lines, strike supply depots, or disable command ships before the Council even realized they were under attack. The Therans, known for their monstrous dreadnoughts, found themselves humiliated by smaller Earth vessels that hid amid asteroid fields converted into hidden artillery platforms. Suddenly, every advantage the Council believed they possessed was turned against them. Humanity had studied their strategies, mapped their hyperlanes, and anticipated every classic tactic. I recall the day the Council's High Admiral Zen threatened to obliterate a cluster of Valoran refugee ships unless Earth surrendered. Vice Admiral Jackson Romano responded by telling him on an open frequency, "Your weapons will not function in 30 seconds." True to his word, the entire Council battle group's energy cannons fizzled out, disabled by a specialized electromagnetic wave the humans had adapted from Valoran crystal frequency. The once feared dreadnoughts were left floating powerless as Earth's forces captured them with next to no bloodshed. Even we Nazari, who prided ourselves on being the Council's mightiest warriors, were forced to concede that the humans knew how to fight without resorting to simple annihilation. It was a strange, unsettling moment, witnessing a brand new power using advanced technology so precisely, carefully minimizing casualties, while still devastating their enemies' capacity to wage war. Still, the Council refused to back down, at least among its core membership. The founding species, Nasari, Therans, Vex, Fandor, clung to their ancient dominion. They had ruled unopposed for millennia, and they believed no upstart from Earth could truly topple them. They began mustering the largest war fleet in recorded history, calling upon thousands of warships from across Council space. For a time it seemed like the tide might turn. How could humanity hope to match such enormous numbers? But the humans had an answer for that as well. The day that the Council's unstoppable battle group entered the Nazari home sector, they found only 62 Earth ships waiting for them. The Council's Supreme Commander Draz sneered, certain of a lopsided victory. Then those 62 ships vanished. A second later, they reappeared inside the Council's shield perimeter, where the dreadnoughts were most vulnerable. The planet cracker weapons that the Council had hoped to use to teach Earth a lesson were reduced to debris in under 10 minutes. The rest of the Council ships, left leaderless and panicked, scattered as Earth's forces systematically disabled them. The human ability to micro-jump, using compact quantum drives that took seconds to recharge, was a game-changer no one else had anticipated. I witnessed these events from a distance, often gleaning patchwork intel from captured Council transmissions or from my vantage on Earth's allied ships. My own sense of identity had splintered. I had worn the Nazari uniform proudly, but each new atrocity the Council committed and each victory the humans achieved eroded my faith in the old order. Nazari officers, Fandor intelligence agents, Vex resource managers, they all seemed to scramble in confusion as Earth undermined the Council's infrastructure. The Vex, who had long believed themselves indispensable as resource controllers, found that Earth had become nearly self-sufficient, developing new energy sources with the help of Valoran crystal technology. The entire political and economic system that the Council had carefully nurtured for 3 millennia was unraveling in a matter of months. But if anyone thought Earth would be content with pushing back the Council from Valoran worlds, they were mistaken. The humans had no desire to conquer, yet they would not rest until the Council's leadership was held accountable. From the logs I accessed, it seemed that Earth's highest command believed in a single blunt approach. We finish it so that no more innocents die. That was how Operation Vengeance turned its gaze upon Galactic Prime, the artificial planet that served as the Council's seat of power. I had never seen Galactic Prime in person, only read about it in Nisari academies. It was said to be the most fortified place in the galaxy, bristling with planetary shields, orbital cannons, automated war satellites, an entire fleet standing guard. Council tradition insisted that no enemy could ever breach it, and for 3,000 years none had even dared to try. Yet the entire might of Earth's newly formed Armada of Justice, bolstered by the surviving Valoran ships and even volunteers from other species who despised the Council's tyranny, was now en route to that impenetrable world. My mind reeled at the scale of it. Could the humans really break through centuries of layered defenses? We emerged from jump space at the outskirts of the Galactic Prime system, expecting a brutal, prolonged siege. Council vessels, thousands of them, were arranged in concentric rings around the planet, each ring overlapping shield frequencies to prevent any incursion. It was a formation that had repelled all challengers in the past. Admiral Reyes studied it calmly from the flagship Retribution's command deck. The plan, she revealed, was not to go through those rings at all. Instead, Earth's jump drive scientists had discovered hidden currents within subspace, small dimensional pathways that effectively let them bypass the planet's outer defensive perimeter altogether. "We'll go under their shields," she said, pointing to an incomprehensible lattice of space-time readings on a console. "And we'll appear right where they least expect." I joined a small observation crew stationed in the starboard hangar of the Retribution, from which I could watch a feed of the unfolding tactic in real time. Each squadron of Earth ships vanished from normal space, forging a path along these newly charted subspace currents. The Council forces expecting a frontal assault had no immediate response. Then, in the blink of an eye, Earth's entire armada of justice materialized in low orbit directly above the capital spires of Galactic Prime. Just like that, eons of defensive fortifications were rent. The Council leaders, high commanders, administrators, species representatives had been gathered for an emergency session in their grand meeting hall, a coliseum-like chamber built to project the Council's glory. Before they could even scramble to safety, the ceiling buckled under the gravitic pressure of the Retribution hovering overhead. I saw the live feed of Admiral Reyes activating the external broadcast system. Her voice boomed down upon them. "This is Admiral Elena Reyes of Earth. Your genocide against the Valoran ends now. Your reign ends now." The Fandorian High Counselor leapt to his feet, spouting defiance, but was vaporized by a pinpoint precision beam before he could finish his sentence. Stunned silence followed. The other High Counselors, thoroughly outmaneuvered, had no choice but to surrender on the spot. And with that, thousands of Council soldiers across the planet began laying down their arms. The truth was, they weren't all zealots. Many had followed orders out of fear or ingrained loyalty, much as I once had. Seeing the unstoppable presence of Earth's war machine overhead, they simply gave up. In mere hours, Earth and its allies secured Galactic Prime without the massive bloodshed everyone had feared. The war that was expected to last decades had culminated in a single thunderbolt strike. What followed surprised me even more. Earth did not impose martial law or strip the planet's population of its resources. Instead, they systematically dismantled only the Council's military infrastructure, leaving civilian networks and essential services untouched. War criminals were apprehended, but the local governments were allowed to continue administrative duties under supervision. Earth broadcast that any planet wishing to join a new, equitable alliance, the Galactic Alliance, would be welcomed, and over the next days, star systems practically lined up to sign on. Many had despised the Council's oppressive taxes and unyielding regulations for centuries, but they had never dared revolt. Now, with Earth's success lighting the way, entire sectors seceded from the old regime overnight. That was 1 year ago. Since then, I've watched the entire galaxy transform at a pace that defies belief. The Valoran, though forever scarred by the near annihilation of their homeworld, have been rebuilding with unprecedented speed. Their new cities are even more magnificent than before, aided by human engineering and a galaxy's worth of volunteers offering supplies, labor, and solidarity. The Nesari, my own people, found themselves without the Council's familiar structure. Many Asari soldiers found acceptance in the new alliance, pledging to protect the innocent rather than enforce the Council's will. I was among them. I spent months under Earth's rehabilitation program, though that word implies something far harsher than the reality. The humans insisted on teaching me Valoran philosophy, Earth history, and the constitutional principles of the newborn Galactic Alliance. They wanted me to understand the difference between tyranny and real justice. I'll admit, at first I resisted. Guilt weighed heavily on me for the role I had played in enabling the Council's aggression, yet the humans never sought to punish me for my past. They sought to open my eyes, to show me that we can learn from what was done, then choose a better way forward. It was a revelation that shook the core of who I was. Now I live in a Valoran settlement built on an island of floating crystals, a place that once seemed like an impossible vision. Purple, silver spires shimmer in the sunlight, harnessing energy to power our new communal structures. Humans, Valoran, Nazari, and dozens of other species mingle on the walkways, sharing stories, forging relationships. There's a sense of cautious optimism, as though everyone expects ghosts of the old council to rise from the ashes, but so far that fear has not materialized. Most council loyalists realize that continuing a fight was pointless, especially given Earth's unstoppable tactics. They either surrendered or melted away into quieter corners of space. Of course, the galaxy remains a vast place, and not all corners are peaceful. Pirates, warlords, and power-hungry remnants exist, but for now the central authority in the galaxy strives to be a force of cooperation, not conquest. It's such a radical shift from the centuries of oppression I once took for granted. Admiral Reyes retired shortly after the formal dissolution of the Galactic Council, returning to a remote Valoran world to serve as a mentor to young leaders. She claimed she had fought one war too many and needed to rest. When I asked her if she regretted anything, the massive battles, the disabled fleets, the shock and awe tactics, she gave me a tired smile and said, "I regret that we ever had to fight at all. But after what they did to our allies, we had no choice." I believe her. The humans never sought glory or territory. They sought to ensure the Valoran genocide would never be repeated on any planet, anywhere. That, more than their advanced weaponry, is what truly disarmed the old order. They fought to protect rather than to dominate. I sometimes think about the Council's original impetus, to bring order and stability to a fractious galaxy. Perhaps it worked once. But over 3 millennia, that lofty ideal devolved into rigid control, punishing the smallest deviations from the Council's sanctioned path of development. They forgot that real stability cannot be enforced through fear alone. The moment the Valoran extended a welcoming hand to Earth, a new possibility emerged. That cooperation across cultures could lead to an era of mutual prosperity. Of course, it wouldn't be neat or tidy. Human history is riddled with war, and the galaxy at large had never known universal harmony. Yet, ironically, it was the humans' capacity for conflict that led them to unify so quickly when threatened by the Council. Their history taught them how to mobilize on a planetary scale, forging alliances in record time and fueling research into advanced weaponry at breakneck speed. When combined with Valoran crystal science, that capacity became unstoppable. In the darkest nightmares, I recall the day I watched Valora Prime burn under the Council's quantum disruptors. I remember the hush of horror in the outpost as we saw spires and living quarters crumble, the anguished pleas for mercy that the Council never heeded. Those memories used to keep me awake, consumed by rage and shame. Over time, I've been able to transform them into a vow: never again. I see that vow echoed across the Alliance. The galaxy has learned the cost of apathy. No one wants to let hatred drive them to genocide or stand idly by while entire civilizations are annihilated. The hardest lesson might be that we all had a hand in letting the Council become the monster it was, through fear, complacency, or blind loyalty. Today, as I stand by the crystalline bridges of this reborn Valoran capital, listening to children of half a dozen species laugh and chase each other around swirling pillars of light, I can't help but reflect on how swiftly fate can change. A year ago, I would never have believed a small, primitive world called Earth could topple an empire that spanned 3,000 years. And yet, that is precisely what happened. They did it not just by outsmarting the Council militarily, but by offering hope. Planet after planet, species after species realized that subservience to an oppressive regime was not the only path. The humans showed them a new choice: stand together, adapt, and protect each other. In quiet moments, local Valoran volunteers speak of a prophecy in their older spiritual texts, something about the forging of new bonds across the stars that ushers a renewal of life. Whether or not they believe it to be literal, they find inspiration in the symbolic rebirth they're living through. For all the heartbreak and ruin visited upon their worlds, there is a sense that the Valoran are rising again, stronger than before, anchored by the knowledge that they are not alone. Humanity may not be perfect, but they have proven willing to stand at the front lines for those who cannot defend themselves. That is not the mark of conquerors, it's the mark of defenders. Occasionally I hear rumors of resistance pockets. Nazari generals who refuse to acknowledge Earth's victory, Vex oligarchs who want to restore council trade monopolies, or Fandor archivists who cling to the old ways of controlling information. Sometimes they try to sabotage the new alliance or rally a rebellion, hoping to resurrect the council's power structure. So far, none of these efforts have gained any significant traction. The galaxy has seen enough carnage. Too many have died. Even the species who once supported the council do not wish to reignite old hatred. When I meet with other Nasari who have also abandoned the council's indoctrination, we share stories of regret, of how we rationalized certain acts as necessary, but we also share stories of redemption. Earth's new system of checks and balances, designed in concert with the Valoran, aims to prevent any single group from dominating. It's messy with endless debate and constant negotiation, but for the first time in my lifetime it feels genuinely free. The day I completed the official Alliance citizenship oath remains etched in my memory. I stood alongside a small group of individuals from across the galaxy, a Tharian pilot, 2 Fandorian scholars, a Vex engineer, and even another Nasari officer who had served in the same enforcement unit as me. We each swore to uphold the principles of mutual respect and defense, to never again allow genocide under the guise of containment. There were tears, quiet nods, a collective sense of relief. A human official led us through the ceremony, quoting from a document they called the Alliance Charter. It was newly written, but it already carried historical weight. When it ended, we each received a data chip containing basic Alliance laws and codes, plus translations of Valoran philosophical texts and key documents from Earth's history. Everything from democracy treatises to cautionary tales about the darkest chapters of humanity's own past. I later spent weeks poring over them, marveling at how Earth had gone from barbaric wars on their homeworld to forging a galaxy-wide alliance for peace. Perhaps the spark of conflict and the capacity for unity had always coexisted within them. Am I grateful that Earth launched a war so quickly, that they harnessed technology for destructive ends? It's complicated. Part of me wishes the galaxy had found a more peaceful way, that the Valoran massacre had never happened in the first place. But the harsh truth is that the Council had no intention of listening to reason. They only understood brute force, until they met a species determined to match them blow for blow. Without Earth's intervention, the Valoran would likely be extinct now, and the Council's stranglehold on progress would continue unchallenged. Sometimes, a greater violence is necessary to end perpetual violence. It's not pretty, but it seems to be the lesson hammered into reality by the human swift victory. In these calmer days, I volunteer at a Valoran medical center, coordinating shipments of specialized Earth pharmaceuticals that are used alongside crystal healing therapies. Our patients come from across the galaxy, refugees still reeling from the Council's last offensives, or even Council soldiers who survived catastrophic battles and need prosthetic limbs or psychological support. We treat them all, no questions asked. The Valoran have taught the humans a lot about compassion and healing. The humans, in turn, have taught the Valoran how to stand firm against tyranny. Together, they embody the synergy that so terrified the Council in the beginning. If only the Council had tried to learn or collaborate rather than muzzle and destroy. The billions who died on Valoran Prime deserved better. The children who perished in the bombardment deserved to grow up in a galaxy where life was cherished, not exploited. Sometimes, it's overwhelming to think about how thoroughly the old order collapsed in just over a year. The Council had reigned for 3 millennia, ruling with an iron fist. We thought them invincible. But the humans accomplished the impossible by uniting under a single banner and unleashing innovative tactics that confounded all standard assumptions. They were fearless because their homeworld's history was rife with conflicts that forced them to become creative survivors. That same creativity, fused with Valoran idealism, ended up forging the unstoppable wave that washed away the Council's illusions of eternal supremacy. Now, the war belongs to the past. If you visited Earth's new capital city or the refurbished spires on Valoran, you'd see bustling markets, students from different species exchanging language lessons, engineering breakthroughs inspired by both Terran and Valoran knowledge. You'd never guess how recently those streets and corridors echoed with the horrors of orbital bombardment. The galaxy is collectively exhaling, uncertain if the next breath might bring a new threat. But for now, it is a breath of relief. And so I chronicle this story to remind anyone who reads or hears it of the price of complacency and the power of unity. The Valoran had faith in Earth's potential despite centuries of Council condemnation. The humans reciprocated that faith by going to war, not for conquest, but for justice. The Council slaughtered billions of Valoran allies, and humanity struck back with a ferocity that shattered an empire. Maybe one day, the children of this new alliance will barely recall the old Council's tyranny. Maybe, if we're fortunate, these events will become dusty footnotes of history, overshadowed by centuries of peaceful cooperation. That's certainly the Valoran hope. As for me, I was once a proud Nassari officer, sworn to uphold the Council's edicts without question. Now I wander these glimmering crystal pathways, marveling at how drastically everything has changed. I can't bring back the dead or erase my complicity in the old ways, but I can help build a galaxy in which no one ever again has to see their home vaporized under the name of containment. Every sunrise, I lift a glass of starfruit liquor, an old Nassari tradition, and toast silently to those who fought, bled, and died for the sake of breaking our chains. I raise it to Earth, to Valoran, to the thousands of species who have chosen the uncertain path of cooperation. We are living in a new era where the most powerful fleets in the galaxy are pledged to defend rather than terrorize. Perhaps that is the greatest victory of all, because the real danger in the universe is not advanced weaponry or unstoppable technology. It is forgetting who your friends are. In that, humanity has proven the most dangerous species of all. They never forgot the Valoran, nor did they abandon them when the Council tried to annihilate them. That, more than any quantum disruptor or planetary shield, is what makes them truly unstoppable. So here's to the day the Council's worst fears came true, the day the Valoran found a friend, and that friend unleashed a storm of retaliation that the galaxy will never forget. We stand on new ground now, forging a tomorrow that might at last be worthy of the countless lives cut short. And for all the regret and pain behind us, I can see genuine hope on the horizon. May that hope guide us onward in peace.